Welcome again to another episode of how we can manage our businesses, our agribusiness in a more sustainable way. So our mantra is you have to look at the market first before you go into production. So you first of all have to look into the market side and determine what are the prices you're likely to get and what you're likely to sell your produce at. You also need to look at the demands of your market. What is that? What is it that your market requires for you to supply? So I'll be sharing with you a few things about the local market, the prices, the price trends, and what we can do to actually make the best out of the local market and what's available. So I'll first of all look at the production volumes and production volumes and the demands, the annual demands from the local market. Zimbabwe produces around 23,000 tons of tomatoes every year. If you look at the 2014-2015 season and the 2020-2021 season, you then see that we have a constant supply of tomatoes almost every season. And the annual demand for tomatoes in Zimbabwe is around 23,000 per year. So we are kind of producing in excess, and we find that this excess comes in usually around around the period of March, April, around the period of May to July. That's when we usually have this excess. So it's very important for you, if you're to do your cash flows, to know what are the best times for me to produce excess and what are the best times to produce fewer tomatoes so that you don't flood your own market. Let's look at the price trends for tomatoes. You'd find that most of the prices, most of the best prices in tomatoes are around the period of late August to late or mid-October. That's when we have the highest price of tomatoes in Zimbabwe. And the second period where we get the highest price of tomatoes in Zimbabwe is the period between December and March, with the peak in March usually. This is mainly because of the frost or low temperatures between the period of June, July, and the late stages of May. So a few farmers grow tomatoes during this period, which then impact the supply of tomatoes around late August to mid-October. That's where we have the highest price of tomatoes. Then from the period of December to March, the main reason why we have a higher price of tomatoes on the open market is because most of the farmers then won't be able to grow tomatoes around October to November due to low water levels, number one. Number two, tomatoes are a bit difficult to manage during the rain season. So then find out that from the onset of the rains, there are a lot of diseases that affect the tomatoes, which would then also impact on the supply of tomatoes during the January to March period. So it is very important for farmers to then take advantage of these periods. That's where you then make most of the profits from the crop. Not to say we should be speculative and just want to produce tomatoes during those periods where we get highest prices. But as a farmer, you then plan your calendar to say, during these periods, that's when I produce most of my tomatoes so that I can get the most out of the crop. Then during the other periods where we have lower prices, you then produce in moderate amounts so that you then don't flood the market, and also then you don't make huge losses during those periods. That's pretty much about the price trends locally. But on average, these past years, the average price for a sandak of tomatoes in the open market ranges between $10 to $15. So that should be your benchmark as a farmer when you do your cash flows. The price can go lower than 10, but it's an unusual lower price, then the highest you can get is $25 to $30. So when you're planning your cash flows, you need to take that into consideration so that you can be able to know if it is a profitable venture for you or if it's not a profitable venture for you. And it's important to also know that what quantities should you produce for you to be able to make a profit given these price ranges that you're likely to get at any time in the open market. Rollings, it is important to know that these trends are changing right now, because this is the data from the price trends that I'm giving from the data that we have from 2015 up to 2021. But we are seeing that a new trend is kicking in that's different from what we used to have in the past. If you look at the data that we have from 2015 to 2021, you'd see these distinctions very clear. But now the price is kind of flattening out to mean you get price differences that are not that big from the equilibrium price, which is around $15. It's either you get a high price of $20 or a lower price of $10. The main reason why we are having these new trends is because of the changes in weather patterns and seasons. You'd see that in the previous years, we usually had rains from early November to say February. That's when we would receive most of our rains during the December period. So all the tomatoes that were being grown in that period were susceptible to a lot of diseases, which would then mean the highest price of tomatoes would be in March, where we have a lower supply. But now, because the seasons have shifted a bit, we are now receiving most of our rainfall in January, which means those trends are shifting as well to then maybe in the period of April and May. So we're still trying to marry the previous data and the current data so that we can have a comprehensive intelligence as to what is happening really in the market. So it's important to also take note of that as farmers. In as much as we can consult past data, we also need to look into the current trends that are setting in. Also, we now have improved varieties that are resistant to diseases, which is pretty much what Francis talked about. So you then find out that most farmers are now able to grow tomatoes during the periods where we normally see farmers shun tomatoes, because they're now improved varieties that they can now grow, which means the price is now kind of flattening out and not have those spikes where we have low supply. Then there's the adoption of technology. Like I said earlier on, that farmers usually from the past, they avoided growing tomatoes around May, June, and July for fear of frost. But now most farmers are now adopting the use of greenhouses, which then means the price of tomatoes, the supply rather of tomatoes, will almost be constant throughout the year, which then gives us also constant prices throughout the year, which I think is a good thing, so that we don't have chances. We then just have farmers who are into real business, and we then know that you can have constant profits throughout the year. So these are some of the things that are affecting the normal trends that we used to have in the past, and we tend to now have new trends kicking in. Then I think, given that the trends are changing and that Zimbabwe is producing pretty much oversupply of tomatoes throughout the year, because we consume 23,000 and producing about 25,000. and our export is roughly around 4,000 tons a year, and we import around 960 to 1,000 tons every year, which is not pretty much, because we are producing something that is sufficient for the local market. So the question comes in to say, what then can we do as farmers to really improve our profits, which I think is where we are supposed to go as a nation and as farmers. I really look forward to a time when we have consortiums in areas like Marondera, Brewa, and Lomboshawa, where we get most of our tomatoes for the open market. So these consortiums should then come in and try to have a group of farmers doing value addition, because if you then want to do value addition on an individual capacity, it might be very expensive, given that most of our farmers are small scale farmers to medium scale farmers. So we then need to tap into value addition as groups, and not as individuals. If you have the capacity, you can, but it's important to then come into groups as farmers. Then we value add our crop, our tomatoes. If you look at the data that we have, Zimbabwe imports about 250,000 kgs of soups, and about 90% of that we are importing from South Africa. So this is a huge gap that we can fill in as farmers. I think we can then process our tomatoes into products that we are actually importing from South Africa, which is cheaper than actually importing these products. If we can value add our tomatoes into soups, into purees, into other products that can be made from tomatoes. And a good example of a company that I'd like farmers to take advantage of, it's called Chashi Foods. These guys, they're doing a real good job in helping farmers deal with post-harvest losses. Given that we are producing excess tomatoes at some point in time, and sometimes farmers are frustrated by the market prices. If you go to Mbare, you see heaps of tomatoes being thrown away. If you go to Tare, Sakuba, to any market you go to, you see a lot of losses happening there. But what Chashi Foods is doing, they are now processing these tomatoes and other products, that other fresh produce that we produce in Zimbabwe, into value-added products, as you can see from the slide. So in terms of tomatoes, they can dry your tomatoes, they can process them into soups, which I think will give our local farmers an edge. Then, given that most of our products are on high demand outside the country, which means then in as much as we are not exporting raw tomatoes, we can then export processed tomatoes, which I think there is a huge gap there. But we cannot achieve this as silos. We need to come together as farmers and be able to come up with consortiums that really do these value addition processes. I think that's pretty much so. For more information on the price trends and the data that we have, you can visit our analytics website on www.musikaanalytics.co.za. You can also send the word rate to 0719-454-686, which is a WhatsApp platform that will then give you daily price updates straight to your inbox for free. Then if you want to do these analysis and trends and to tap into the data that we have on local markets, you can simply visit the website, or you can text us or message us, and we'll be able to assist you. All this information is available for free at your disposal, so that you can now have a profitable business venture. We really encourage farmers to first of all look into their markets and see what the market requires before they move on to production. I think that's pretty much back to you, Rollins.